Welcome everybody. Thanks very much for joining us for this webinar on embedding public partnerships in MRC funding applications. My name is Erica Doyle. I'm from the MRC Public Partnerships team, and I'll be chairing the webinar today. Just a few notes of housekeeping. So if you could move to the next slide, please, Karen. A note that we are recording the sessions today, and after the session, we'll be sharing the slides and a recording of the presentations. Next slide, please, Karen. So you're going to be hearing from several speakers today. First off, my colleague from the MRC Public Partnerships team, Mary Derrick, will kick us off with a few words on why public partnerships matter. Then we'll hear two very different but equally insightful perspectives from Miratul Muqit from the MRC unit at the University of Dundee and public partner Amelia Dupuy on the difference that public partners can make to research. Then MRC Programme Manager Sam Palmer will be taking us through when and how you should include public partnerships in MRC funding applications. Now I'm going to hand over to Mary to kick us off.
Thanks, Erica. I'm Mary Derrick, a member of the MRC Public Partnerships team. I've been working on public engagement and communications since joining MRC in 2015. My previous experience included strategic planning, business development, branding, marketing, and internal communications. Next slide, please. By public partnerships, we mean all the ways that people and the research community can come together to shape and share scientific research. Public partnerships cover the whole spectrum of public engagement, which includes involvement and community engagement. Public partners include a diverse range of communities and people of all ages and backgrounds who bring different life experiences, knowledge, and perspectives. Public partners include members of the public, patients, and voluntary and community groups, both in the UK and internationally. Next slide, please. We are striving for effective collaboration and genuine partnerships between researchers, MRC staff, public involvement and engagement professionals, individuals, and communities. There need to be advantages or benefits from the interaction for all involved. Benefits can include shared knowledge, skills, opportunities, or other valuable outcomes. Our public partnership strategy applies to all the research that MRC supports. We particularly want to increase public partnerships in non-clinical research where they can bring benefit to research and society. This is not about box ticking. It is about purposeful and inclusive public partnerships with mutual benefit considered from the start. We have published case studies that describe the different impacts and mutual learning from public partnerships. You can find links to these and other resources on our Public Partnership Strategy webpage. Next slide, please. The co-development of our MRC Public Partnership Strategy identified a gap, which was to involve the public to inform research design. In our strategy, we committed to run a funding initiative that would address this gap. Research organisations needed to devise and run their own scheme for their own researchers to apply to. We made 6 funding awards in September 2025, with the research organisation schemes being open for applications by the end of January 2026. Reimbursing public partners who work with researchers to develop MRC funding applications is a scheme requirement. The schemes run for 18 months, and our evaluation includes a couple of strategic questions to help us understand the culture change achieved by the initiative. The questions are, in what ways, if any, did the awarded research teams change their approach to working with public partners? And how, if at all, did the funded projects influence research thinking, direction, or plans? Next slide, please. From our discussions with the MRC community, local public involvement support was identified as critical to the success of the pre-application funding schemes. Support is needed from the outset, with a focus on mutual benefit throughout. Tailored support will be informed by the public involvement experience of the researcher and the proposed public partner activity. And this includes planning the delivery and evaluation of the activity. Everyone benefits from early dialogue. Early support from the public involvement team increases the likelihood of meaningful public involvement at pre-application stage, and that public partner activities are planned and costed into the grant, improving sustainability. Next slide, please. Public partnerships provide opportunities for public partners and research teams to share knowledge and experience. This matters because effective collaboration improves the relevance of research, making it more likely that everyone will benefit. Thank you.
I'm going to invite Miratul to talk about his perspective on the difference public partners can make.
Thank you very much, Erica. So I'd like to first of all thank Mary and her team for giving me the opportunity to describe my experience and perspective of public partnerships from the point of view of being a clinician scientist. So I'm a neurologist and lab-based researcher based both at the MRC protein phosphorylation and ubiquitination unit at the University of Dundee. And I also have a dual appointment at the UKDRI Parkinson's Research Centre at the University of Edinburgh. So what I will tell you today in this 10-minute talk is how research at the MRC phosphorylation unit has involved public partnerships over the years, specific research on our area in Parkinson's and how we've been using partners, and then conclude on some final thoughts. So a bit of background. So the MRC protein phosphorylation and ubiquitination unit is a fundamental research unit trying to understand signal transduction mechanisms, which is highly relevant to many diseases. And this is obviously quite a complicated scientific term, not just to the general public, but even, for example, to other medical professionals. So the unit has always prided itself in relaying what we do to the general public. So I thought I would share with you a clip from a video that was put together a number of years ago from Brian Cox. And this is how we do research.
During the course of our lives, many of us will be affected either directly or indirectly by diseases whose molecular bases share a common thread: hypertension, neurodegeneration, or cancer, for example. How often do we stop to consider the events that occur during the course of diseases such as these, or the important role that communication plays in the process of their outcomes? While we all recognize the importance of communication between people, did you know how critical this process is within each of us? Or that the cells and the tissues that make up our entire body convey key pieces of information to each other, not by talking to one another, but via what's termed as signaling events. This is what scientists around the world are working hard to understand. And here in Scotland, the MRC protein phosphorylation and ubiquitination unit is at the forefront of this research. For it turns out that one of the major means by which cells signal and thereby communicate is through a mechanism termed phosphorylation. Now, it has been known for a while that phosphorylation is intimately intertwined with an enzyme class known as kinases.
So I'd like to stop there and say that Brian Cox is a supporter of the research in Dundee, and if you want to watch the rest of the video, it's available on YouTube. So I think what's been very good for me as a researcher is that there is a very deep-rooted infrastructure for doing public partnered research, and this is led by our public engagement consultant, Sarah, but we also work well with the Greater Life Sciences public engagement team led by Amy Cameron. And I think there are three strands to how we do our research. So part of it is engaging, involving patients and disease-based charities, generating interest amongst young people, and also general communications and sharing research to the public. The disease that we focus on is Parkinson's disease. This is now one of the leading causes of brain degeneration. And despite lots of research, there's still no disease-modifying therapies. And my own research has been focused on understanding the role of a protein kinase called PINK1, which is mutated in people with familial Parkinson's disease. And over the years, we've worked on this pathway from scratch and discovered that this enzyme and kinase works to improve mitochondrial quality control by initiating a series of signaling events, which leads to the identification for the cell of mitochondria to the damaged, and this allows them to be removed by by the lysosome through a process called mitophagy. And this work has also underpinned now translational work, and there are now 2 clinical trials of molecules in phase 1 based on our biology. So it's obviously quite fundamental. It's very, very basic how we work to with partners to explain our research and then get their views as well. And so the partners that we've worked for in our research have been Parkinson's UK, which has an extremely well-organized infrastructure for public engagement, and it does this through something called research interest groups. These are spread throughout the UK, and there's several in Scotland, including one in Dundee. We've also worked closely with the Michael J. Fox Foundation and also this global initiative called Aligning Science Across Parkinson's. What is the Dundee Research Interest Group? So it's people who are affected directly or indirectly with Parkinson's. They've got together because they're very interested in how to better understand research underlying this. So it's unusual. I see people in the clinic with the condition. People that I see in the clinic are very much focused on what therapies and what drugs can really help them improve their symptoms. The people in these research interest groups are very much of the view we need to do research and help support research to find the next breakthroughs. I want to give you 2 examples of how we've benefited from these partnerships. So last year, I was successful in receiving an MRC award, and part of that involved proposing work to expand our public patient involvement. I was very, very fortunate to have the help of Sarah in our public engagement team to help me with my application. And I used in the application examples of our past track record. So for example, a project that Sarah led called Exchanges, which is a card-based task that helps patients communicate with themselves and also with researchers. Sarah helped me through my application to put together the activities that I wanted to do to help shape the research. And this was largely a basic research proposal. And then also Sarah helped with helping me with the costings. And that included compensating people for their time. And I think this was extremely important and I think was instrumental in me getting my award. And then on a more recent experience was that I recently was appointed director of a new centre within the UK DRI. This is one of the UK's MRC institutes. And I used both Sarah and the members of the Dundee Research Interest Group to help me with my application process. So in my application, they asked for a lay summary of my proposed research. And I drafted something and got input from the members of the team. And what was very interesting is the proposal asked for text, but one of the members of the team said, Miratul, why didn't you put in a photograph? Why didn't you put some colour? And I think that really helped my application, and probably I wouldn't have thought of that myself. And then I was invited to the interview, and then I met and got considerable feedback from our research interest group regarding my slides, how to structure my slides, how really to put people at the centre of my research. And I'm very, very grateful that they were able to help me with that. In terms of moving forward in my role in the UK DRI, we're taking one step further by also appointing or planning to appoint what we will call a People's Council. These will be people that will be extremely very much ambassadors for our new Parkinson's Centre, and we will hope that they can advocate for our centre, interact with our researchers, help them with their applications, discuss with them what symptoms and what aspects of Parkinson's are important that might be worthy of discovery. And I recently, just last Sunday, contributed this very well-written article on the role of environmental factors in Parkinson's. So there was a section largely on the science that was contributed by several scientists. But what I would hope is that in future such media articles, people from the council will be able to give their views on what matters to them around scientific areas. So I think it's a really, really important element of how we will do our research. And I'm giving you the specific example of Parkinson's, but I think this applies to many other fundamental research areas as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Would help if I unmuted myself. Hello, everybody. My name is Amelia Dupuy, and I'm here to tell you a bit about my journey and impact as a public partner. Next slide, please. Thank you. To introduce myself, I have recently graduated from my undergraduate psychology degree at the University of Manchester, and I'm currently a public co-investigator for the Voice In project at the university. Outside of my role within the university, I am also working as a care professional, and my broader interests and aspirations are within health psychology. Next slide, please. So while I was studying in Manchester, I was really keen to expose myself to research and to learn about how it was being conducted at the university. And after seeing a poster at the library, I went and took part in Youth Connections, which is a young person's advisory group, or YPAG, run by the university's digital health research platform, GM Digital. So in essence, this is a group of young people that actively participate in and advise on research projects, offering insights from the perspective of the people or groups implicated in the research. So in a group of around 6 to 10 others, I helped to shape digital health initiatives by advising researchers specifically from a young person's perspective, while also gaining a much deeper understanding of the research process myself. And one of these digital health projects that we reviewed in Youth Connections was the Voice In project, which is a mobile app that both encourages young people to contribute to research and also allows researchers to gather public feedback. The app itself had been co-designed with the Youth Connections groups, and after the session that I attended reviewing its usability and features, I took an interest in the project, and I was subsequently invited to become a co-investigator for Voice In, which I was thrilled to accept. Next slide, please. So, as well as the benefits afforded by being a named public partner on the grant application for the project, I have had an active role throughout the project, and I work very closely with our wonderful project manager. So to give a few brief examples of how I have contributed so far, I now co-lead our own dedicated Young Persons Advisory Group, or YPAG, where I can use my own experience in the Youth Connections group and my experience as a young person to design engaging and digestible content to bring in order to gather the most high quality feedback from the other young people. I've also used my experience during my undergraduate degree to suggest and facilitate a way for undergraduate psychology students at the University of Manchester to receive study credits for using the app. So this has led to a 54% increase in public contribution in just 10 days. I've also represented Voice In at a national conference in Liverpool, which has led to me becoming a member of an alliance for YPAG facilitators called Generation R, where I am able to share and learn best practice for the management of YPAGs to improve our own output. And I've also been able to create and record social media content based on my understanding of what engages young people online effectively. Next slide, please. So, in addition to, hopefully, the value that I've brought to the project as a public partner, being a part of Voice In has been a truly invaluable opportunity for me. It has allowed me an inside view of the research process and how teams in this field operate. It's cemented my own career goals within health psychology. I've gained skills in public speaking, facilitating advisory groups, and team dynamics, which will be instrumental as I begin to move forward with my own career in the research field. And at its core, I would say that I've gained a strong appreciation for the value that public partnerships can bring in research that I will take forward into my career from here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Amelia. Right, Sam, can I ask you to talk us through how to include public partnerships in MRC funding applications, please?
Yes, of course I can, Erica. Afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Sam Palmer, and I'm a Programme Manager within the MRC. As part of my role, I'm working with colleagues in the Public Partnership team on embedding public partners into research. So over roughly the next 10 minutes, I will outline how to involve public partners in the research journey, the type of MRC funding opportunities available, some practical steps on when and how to include public partners in funding applications, and some information on the MRC payment guidance. Next slide, please. Okay, so public partners can be involved throughout the research journey, strengthening every stage of the process. Consider at the pre-application stage early conversations that support exploring and deciding where to focus, help clarify what matters, and shape meaningful research questions. Identifying and prioritising the right public partners at this stage is equally valuable. Working with people who bring contextual knowledge or community insight can strengthen the research from the outset. Their perspectives can challenge assumptions and introduce additional expertise. Building collaboration into the design and the grant application stages ensures projects are accessible, relevant, and grounded in real priorities. Where public partners are involved in recruitment, data collection, or sample-based activities, it can be helpful to draw on public insight to broaden reach and improve the experience of taking part. Maintain involvement during analysis and what could add most value, adding depth to the findings and help make sense of results in context. Treat dissemination as a shared effort, ensuring outcomes are communicated in ways that resonate with communities and support real-world change. Look to continue engagement through implementation and evaluation to reflect on what has changed, what worked well, and what could be improved in future cycles. This shared approach builds trust, strengthens transparency, and ultimately leads to research that is more meaningful and more likely to deliver benefits for society. Next slide, please. So MRC encourages public partners to be involved in all MRC funding opportunities. These can include the applicant-led and new investigator grant opportunities. These are continuous opportunities intended for curiosity-driven fundamental or translational research. We also have fellowship awards that allows talented researchers in supporting key transition points in their careers. Centres of Research Excellence, also known as CORE, which funds large-scale, ambitious research programs aimed at transforming the understanding and treatment of significant health challenges, and our strategic opportunities. And these provide targeted funding and initiatives to advance specific, high-priority areas of biomedical research and innovation. And in all cases, the research funding opportunities are funded at 80% full economic cost. Next slide, please. So when completing your application, applying to the MRC opportunity, we expect all applicants to reflect on how public partners could inform and strengthen their research, bringing purposeful and inclusive partnerships in from the start. It is worth being mindful that partnerships should be reciprocal, with clear opportunities for public contributors to gain from their involvement, whether through learning, influence, connection, or a sense of contributing to something important. There are 4 key areas on the funding service platform where you can highlight public partner involvement and their importance in the research. Next slide, please. When adding your core team, each member requires a role type in an organisation. If you are including a public partner within your core team, they need to be assigned the specialist role. There will also be a list to choose from for the organisation. However, if the relevant organisation is missing, please manually add a new one using individual contributor with unknown for the address. There is further details on roles types are available in the roles and funding applications eligibility and costing guidance. Next slide, please. So your approach. When explaining how you will deliver your proposed work, consider how public partners will contribute to strengthening your approach. You could describe how their perspectives have informed the design, helped refine your objectives, or highlighted risks and practical considerations that need to be managed. Where relevant, outline how public insight has shaped your methodology, clarified the rationale for your chosen approach, or helped identify where previous work needs to be built upon or challenged. You may also wish to explain how involving the public will support the translation of outputs into meaningful outcomes and impacts, and how your research environment enables effective partnership working. Within the research section, you should also explain and justify how public partnerships will be used, where they will add value, and how involvement will be supported. This might include describing the roles of public contributors will play at different stages, how their input will be integrated into decision making, and how you will ensure the partnership is mutual. Be clear about why involvement is appropriate, how it strengthens the project, and what contributors can expect to gain from taking part. Next slide, please. So the applicant and team capability to deliver section, we ask you to explain why you and your team are well placed to deliver the work, showing the experience, skills and expertise and leadership needed to meet your objectives and contribute to a positive research environment. Highlight your contributions to new ideas and methods, your support for others and effective working relationships, your role in the wider research community and your engagement with users, audiences and wider societal benefit, including public partnerships. It is worth reading through each funding opportunity on our website and TFS questions before considering submitting an application, as depending on the opportunity, the questions may change. Next slide, please. So I'd like to move on to payment guidance for public partners. MRC encourages payment to eligible public partners to recognise their contribution. When considering resources and costs, ensure funding is appropriate to the needs of the project and follows the MRC payment guidance for public partners. By providing information in the justification of resources within the application gives you the opportunity to provide added value. For an individual to be eligible as a public partner, they must contribute in a personal capacity. This means that they are participating as themselves, drawing on their own experiences and perspectives, rather than representing their employer or acting within the scope of their paid or organisational role. Organisations who represent members of the public, for example, support and community groups or charities, may be offered payment for public partnership contributions provided by their staff or members in a professional capacity. The level and arrangements for payment should be agreed before the activity takes place, and where possible, it can be worth checking policies and processes within your own research organisations. To note, individuals aged 16 years and over who are in employment or receiving benefits must be made aware that they are responsible for informing HMRC or the Job Centre Plus. Next slide, please. When working with children and young people, children and young people who take part in public partnerships should receive appropriate reward and recognition for their contribution. They or their parents or carers should not be out of pocket due to taking part. Reimbursement may need to take different forms depending on the age, with vouchers often the preferred method. In all cases, the level of payment and the arrangements for administrating it should be agreed before the activity begins. Again, we have full guidance on the MRC payments website, or if you wish to, you can contact the public engagement at mrc.ukri.org. Next slide, please. Public partners should be offered payment for their contribution with clear information on the payment rate, expected role, and estimated time commitment. These payments, as shown on the slide, are a recognition of the contribution that public partners are making and are not an ongoing employment contract. MRC will reimburse reasonable expenses, including travel, food and drink, subsistence, and accommodation associated with public partnership activities. We may also reimburse special requirements, such as care or support workers, interpreters and childcare, if this is agreed before the public partnership activity takes place. Rates should reflect any additional support or access needed required for participation. Next slide, please. So finally from me, public involvement brings practical insight and real-world priorities that help make research more relevant and useful. It supports the development of questions that matter to people, encourages fair and accessible methods, and helps interpret findings. Involvement also builds trust and transparency and helps research reach the communities it aims to benefit. When the public contribute to sharing results, the work becomes more relatable, easier to understand, and more likely to be used. In short, involving the public throughout the process can lead to stronger research and better outcomes for society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam. And it just remains for me to say thank you very much all for joining us. We do really appreciate it. Apologies for the hiccup at the beginning if some of you were kept in the waiting room, but as I said, we will share those slides and the recording so you won't miss out. Thank you very much.